Hello everyone, my name is Soumya Ranjan Das, and in this video I am going to be discussing about inter-process communication in the operating system. In this video I'll talk about what is the inter-process communication system, what are the types of inter-process communication system in the operating system, and what are the models of inter-process communication. Let's talk about what is an inter-process communication. Inter-process communication is a mechanism provided by the operating system which allows different processes to communicate with each other. This allows for exchange of data between different processes. In a multi-process environment, IPC enables processes to collaborate and share information. This facilitates in cooperation and coordination among the processes. In building complex systems, IPC have a major role to lead to processes needing to work together to achieve a common goal. Let's talk about the different types of processes. The first one is independent process. Independent processes are those processes which cannot be affected or be affected by the different process running in the system. For example, if there are different processes running in the system, then they execute in their own ways. They do not affect each processes, and so different processes execute with any effect on them. The second one is cooperating processes. Cooperating processes are those processes which can affect or be affected by the other processes running in the system. For example, if there are two processes running in the system and one of the process has a change in values because of the other process, then this means that the new process have been affected by the other process. And so in cooperating processes can be affected or be affected by the different processes running in the system. Now if you look at this, we can see that inter-process communication will be required in the reasons to allow process cooperation. There are various reasons where the computer needs to allow process cooperation. The first one is information sharing. For example, if there is a common file, say a file which needs to be accessed by different users, then different processes will run to access the same file. Therefore, we need process cooperation so that these files can coordinate and cooperate with each other so that the files can be accessed by different processes at the same time without and concurrently. The second one is computational speed up. In computational speed up, a task is divided into various subtasks. This is used to increase the speed of the process. Now these processes are lead to the same main process. Therefore, there needs to be cooperation and coordination among these different sub-processes. This is another reason to allow process cooperation in case of computation speed up. The third one is modularity. Modularity means to divide into different modules to execute a task. And since these different modules are lead to the same module, these different modules need to communicate with each other, and so modularity is another reason to allow process cooperation. The fourth one is convenience. Say you are executing a music file and also a program or using a web browser, and you want both the processes to run simultaneously. This would need both the processes to communicate with each other, and therefore convenience is another reason to allow process cooperation. Let's talk about the models of the inter-process communication in an operating system. There are two main or fundamental models that are used in inter-process communication in an operating system. The first one is shared memory and the second one is message passing. We'll talk about both these models in the next slide. Moving on to shared memory. Shared memory model is a region of memory that is shared by cooperating processes in which data can be shared by the two cooperating processes. Processes can then exchange information by reading and writing data to the shared memory. In the memory passing model, communication takes place by means of messages exchanged between the cooperating process. Now in this case, just like in shared memory, a shared memory space was used. In this case, the kernel is used. The first process is transferred via messages to the kernel. The kernel then inspects the messages, and then knowing the location, it transfers it to the other cooperating process. Now I'll take a diagram in order to explain this in a better way so that you can visualize how it actually happens. So here we have two figures, A and B, and the first figure shows the shared memory model and the second figure shows the message passing communication model. So if you look at the first figure A, in which is the shared memory system, you have two processes, processes A and process B, in which will be cooperating to each other and which are trying to communicate with each other, and here in between we have a shared region of memory. So when process A wants to communicate with process B, it will do so by writing the information that it wants to communicate to the shared memory region. And what will process B do? It will read the information that was written in the shared memory space by process A. It will understand what communication was process A trying to make. So by the help of shared memory process, A will be able to communicate with process B. So whatever information process A puts here in process B will be able to read it, and so process A writes here and process B reads the shared memory space. This is possible because this is a shared memory region and it is accessible to both processes A and processes B. So what happens in the case of other processes, like for example a shared memory communication model. Now the next one that we have is figure B, is a message passing communication model. So in the same way, here we have two processes, processes A and process B, which are trying to communicate and each other. And here there is a difference. We have a kernel, and this M, they stand out for messages. So when process A wants to communicate with process B, it will send a message to process B. How will it send a message? It will create the message, and the message will go to the kernel. So the kernel will get the message, and it knows that this message is for process B. So the kernel will send the message to process B, and process B will get the message. So that is how message flows in this message passing model. The process A sends the message to the kernel, and the kernel sends a message to the process B. And this is how, in this way, process A is able to communicate with process B via the message passing model. So this is how communication takes place in case of a message passing model. So these are the two common models of inter-process communication. First is the shared memory, and the other one is the message passing model. These two are the main processes that are used for inter-process communication in an operating system. We now come to the end of the presentation. Thank you for watching. Hope this video was informative.